I never used to believe in curses, or spirits, or objects that could hold time hostage. My world revolved around canvas, color, and the solitude of brushstroke. For most of my life, I lived in a modest flat above my studio in a sleepy New England town called Harper's Hollow. The town was old cobblestone streets, with their chimneys. The kind of place where time seemed to walk slowly and sleep with its eyes open. It was in the autumn of 1998 when I first received the commission that would change everything. She walked in during the golden hour, just sat, still as stone, while I worked. Her eyes always locked onto me, not with vanity, but with something heavier. There was an intensity in her gaze that unsettled me. The room always seemed a little colder when she was present. Even when the fireplace roared, people change their minds. They vanish. Life goes on. Just before sunset, casting a silhouette that cut through the studio like a blade. Tall, a woman of refined elegance. Her face, though beautiful, held a sadness I couldn't place. But one rainy afternoon in 2011, I found myself digging through old work, cleaning out the back room. I uncovered the linen-wrapped portrait of Ms. Delaney. Months, no question about it, this. Even sent a letter to the address she had scribbled on the payment slip-a. Colonial estate near the edge of the Vermont hills. It came back unopened, stamped in red. No such address, she replied, removing her gloves with the precision of ritual. The details don't matter. Only the image. The colors muted, the shadows deeper. Aging eyes, failing mind. Perhaps the varnish had degraded or absorbed moisture. But then, I looked closer. Her hairline had receded slightly. The corners of her mouth had sagged. Wrinkles very faint traced beneath her eyes. She looked older. "I'd like a portrait," she said. Voice low, but firm. Most clients wanted their full names in my logbook for posterity or pride, but she refused. Still, money talked, and she paid in full, up front. "This isn't paint alone," he whispered. "A transference." Whoever she was, she didn't want her image preserved. She wanted her essence, offloaded. The background, once a warm sienna, now looked faded and cold, like an old funeral parlor. With crisp, old dollar bills, that felt strangely cold. To the touch, I still had the energy of a man in his 40s. Occult bookstores. Even a retired curator from the National Portrait Gallery who had once dabbled in esoteric preservation. I showed him the painting. Skin like paper, lips thin, eyes almost gone. The chair beneath her was cracking. The background was pitch black. And yet, her expression. I offered her a chair, asked her name, but I made sure you'd see me forever. Something had been since the day Ms. Delaney walked into my studio. Call me Ms. Delaney. There was no forced entry. Nothing else missing. On it, only one word, written in dripping black pigment. Gone. That was odd. Even if I started sketching a landscape, somehow her silhouette would form in the trees. For the next 2 weeks, she came every evening at the same time. She barely spoke. When the painting was finished, she stood in front of it for a long time. No smile, no comment. Then, just as quietly as she had entered my life, she disappeared. A man in his 40s, stuck in some stasis. She never returned to collect the portrait. I waited 4 weeks. I stored the painting in the back room, wrapped in linen, and leaned against the wall. Something about this one didn't let me go. Years passed. I kept painting, kept aging. My hands developed tremors, my beard grayed. And when I unwrapped it, as if the world itself refused to record me anymore. She would have been 80 when I met her. I froze. It had changed. It was subtle at first. I rushed to the cabinet and pulled out the photo references I always took during sittings. I compared them to the painting, and yet the brushstrokes were mine. I speak less. I feel paint drying in my veins. I stared at the painting for a long time, heart pounding in my ears. Then I laughed. Must be memory playing tricks. I put it back, this time in the attic, somewhere I wouldn't see it again. A painted door, slightly ajar. But curiosity doesn't die easily. Don't look into his eyes. In 2015, I checked it again. Locals said it burned down in 1949. An artist had lived there. They said she went mad believing her soul was decaying inside one of her works. More changes. She looked around 60 now. Thinner. Paler. Her eyes sunken. Still seated in that same dignified pose, but visibly withering. That night, I stood in front of the bathroom mirror and truly looked at myself. I hadn't changed. Not in any meaningful way. My hair remained dark, skin unwrinkled, but I was 58. I couldn't explain it. My doctor insisted I was aging normally. No. Something was off. By 2020, I was desperate. He recoiled almost instantly. She gave you something she didn't want to carry anymore. And you're keeping it alive. I left, shaken. That night I took the portrait down from the attic and placed it in the studio once more. I stared at it under proper light. The woman now looked nearly 90. Still watching me. Almost pleading. A week later, I had a dream. She was sitting in my studio. Only this time, she was speaking. "You said you'd paint what you see," she whispered. I woke up in a sweat. My brushes were scattered on the floor. The easel was overturned, and the portrait gone, not stolen. In its place, a blank canvas sat propped up. For the next few months, I couldn't paint anything else. Every canvas I touched morphed into her likeness. I moved. Sold the studio. Burned everything I could. But I didn't age. People around me did. Old friends. Clients. A gift. No. A trap. Because now, even photographs of me began to degrade. Faces around me stayed normal. I became a ghost with skin. In 2023, I traveled to the place she had written on the slip. The estate near the Vermont hills. I had no hope it existed. But it did. Sort of. It was a ruined charred stone walls. Roofless. Overtaken by weeds. They said her name was Evelyn Delaney. The math didn't add up. Impossible. Unless what I painted wasn't her likeness at all, but her soul frozen in time searching for another vessel. And now I sit here telling you this story because I don't know how much longer I can fight it. My reflection doesn't smile when I do. My skin feels colder each day. I no longer cast a proper shadow. The portrait returned last night. It was leaning against my bed. She is gone from it now. Only the chair remains, and behind it a door. And this morning, I woke up with oil on my hands, but I haven't painted in weeks. So if you're ever in a gallery, and you see a portrait of a man who looks too perfect to preserve, don't stare too long. He might just be waiting for you to finish the painting. He can't, because he never aged, but you still will.